everyone. Welcome into another podcast. In this edition, we have the amazing Riz Walker, who also goes by JD Torres. And he is an author of multiple books, so we're very honored to have him as a guest today. Anytime, most definitely. I actually got to meet him on TikTok, where I got to meet a lot of amazing, very talented people, and have gotten to know him quite well over the last, I'd say, a course of a year or so.
It's been about that, yeah.
He is a very kind soul. He always has very inspiring and positive words. He is definitely good at being a life coach, so I will let him tell just a little bit about himself.
Yeah, thanks. So I did start off just hanging out on TikTok. I primarily went there because I was hosting a podcast at the time, and I was trying, like so many other people, to drive traction towards my show. I quickly realized that the aspect of humanity that was necessary for what I was trying to do meant that I didn't need to worry about the podcast so much as connecting to people person to person. And so once I realized that, I slowed down on production, I scaled it back, and I decided to, dive in and encourage, inspire, and motivate people. In the process of doing that, I ended up getting, certified to be a life coach, a spiritual guide, amongst other things. And that's pretty much all she wrote after that. It was just like hanging out with people and, hosting panels, diving deep into topics that I feel would strengthen people's awareness, and encourage them to become the best version of themselves.
I absolutely love that. And you even inspire just by speaking. So you definitely found your true calling, in my opinion. Where can we hear the podcast as well? Just, out of interest.
Oh, so random. I think there's about maybe 10 or so episodes, and it probably should still exist across podcast platforms. It's called The Really Good Show. There was some interesting times. It was in the midst of COVID. So there was, we were doing good news. We were talking about I remember this one story that will stick with me forever. There was a little boy that survived cancer and a bunch of other stuff that happened to him as a youngster. And he went and was walking around his local park trying to raise funds for the hospital that saved his life as a kid. And I just, that story always stuck with me because, at 5, he was doing this. What an inspirational little person that wants to, help the hospital that saved him, with everything that he had gone through at that point. It was just such a beautiful story, and it's, one of my favorites.
That is a very inspirational story, and also inspirational that you were trying really hard to spread positivity. This world breeds negativity like a disease. And so any positivity, any light that can be shed in a positive way is truly embraced, in my opinion. So kudos to you for that. I'm definitely going to have to look that up and listen to those.
Yeah, we had some fun times. I had a co-host. I had a couple of guest hosts. I did a segment called John Meets World, kind of a play off of Boy Meets World title, where I would just talk to a few random people and just dive into them and see what makes them tick, and just get to meet individuals on their level and hear their stories, because everyone has a story to tell. So I'm actually kind of thinking about going back to it maybe a little longer down the road, but I did have a lot of fun doing that, just connecting to people and getting to know who they are, aside from the interactions that we had. There was one friend that I met. I met him on Twitter, now X, but I met him there, and we had a really great conversation. His name was Rob. There was a lot of good conversations coming out of that one.
Well, that's really awesome to hear. I love that. So what or who inspired you to write?
Oh, what or who? I think for me, all glory has to go to God first. So I feel like I've always had a knack for writing. It was a really cathartic way for me to express grief, as my father passed when I was very young. And so to process a lot of those feelings, one of the things that I did was write. And the first writing form that I got comfortable with was rap music. So I used to write rap lyrics with my friends. I had this like cheesy little rap group with a couple of my buddies, and we would like just sit down and write to beats and like spit rhymes back and forth. We had a couple of good studio sessions, and we made a go of it. I have some music archived that probably will never see the light of day, but but definitely was fun to partake in, and it definitely helped comfort me in those times. So I started that when I was like 13. Um, I've always been a writer. I just took a break from it because life gets in the way. I was trying new things and different avenues, and then I stumbled upon, like I said, the podcast and all that, and naturally speaking to people, I felt like being on the internet can dominate some time, right? You can lose track online, and so I wanted to write something tangible for people so that I could take a step back from speaking about these things so much online, and I wanted to write something that they can actually physically hold. A lot of my talking points were very much the same. And so I wanted to leave somebody, whoever it may help, something that they can hold, they can read, they can reference to when they needed things like that being said.
That is a very brilliant idea. I think before I started recording, me and you kind of spoke on that a little bit. Like for me, I don't know if it's just because we were brought up on paper books, but a paper book copy has just seems to resonate so much more and have even though it's the same words and have so much more meaning to me. I guess partially too because it is a little bit of that time away from a screen, but I have not had the chance to purchase your book yet, but I am absolutely psyched about purchasing them.
Oh no, I appreciate the support. I have so much already in just like a short span as a writer. So when I published my first book, it's called The True Adventure: Finding the Frequency of Authenticity. When I published that, it was like mid to late January of 2025. And that was the first time I decided to actually pen anything. I quickly followed that with, as you met me, writing poetry. And so I started writing a collection of poetry, very existential and ominous and paradoxal. And that's what it's called. I started off with the Nothing Paradox, which I wrote in 7 days. I just had like this ridiculous brain, I want to say like almost like brain diarrhea at this point, because it just kept funneling out. And there was seemed to be no end. So I wrote the Nothing Paradox in 7 days. I proceeded to write the Everything Paradox in two, and then its final piece, which was the Gray Area Paradox, in 1 day. And that spans a collection, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, around 60 something poems
Oh
with
wow.
with other intricacies in the middle of them. I won't give you guys any spoilers, but if y'all check them out, you'll see the things that are in between the poems, and you'll also wonder what the absolute F is in my mind.
Definitely got me wondering. So on that note, wow, that's a lot of pages in 1 day. Do you type your stuff or do you handwrite?
No, so as much as I do like to get away from the screen, I don't really have the time to sit down and actively put pen on paper as much as I would love to. And I think that's something that I do miss, especially when I used to do the music. Like I wouldn't be typing on a screen or a keyboard. I would sit there and like handwritten pen, and sometimes even a marker. If I had a pencil available, I was writing rhymes all day. But now I just don't have the time to settle down. Life is busy, work, family, all that stuff, and so the majority of it is in between commute times, other downtime that I can get in between work, and other free times when it's available, and that's all in my Pages app on my phone. So like if you guys have an iPhone and you want to write something, Pages is your go-to. I love it. Live there like 80% of my day.
I have to agree. The convenience of being able to use technology is very helpful and fascinating. And, no matter where you're at, when you find the inspiration, you can just grab your phone and start typing. I was just going to say, if you hand wrote that many pages in one day, you were probably wearing a wrist brace after, was what I was thinking. That's where I was going with that
Oh yeah,
question.
no, and I wish I could do all that in one day, but no, realistically, as I said before, the Nothing Paradox took me like 7 days, and they weren't consecutive. Um, it was like over 7 days. It was like a week and a half or so where the active writing time of what came out of it was like 7 days, and I can't even calculate like the actual hours. I just know that 7 separate days, that's what ended up happening, and then another 2 days, another like 30 something poems came out, and then in one day after writing the Everything Paradox, I sat and I was like, I feel like it needs just one more. And that one is such a short installment. I think it's only like 10 poems in that one. But it was what needed to happen. I really don't know how to explain what the Paradox trilogy really, like the process of it. But I just know that all the things that were in there just needed to be out. And once I was done, it was like a sigh of relief where I got to like take 2 steps back and I was like, okay, that's we're finished. Like we're done here. This is good. Um, and that's how that happened. And the Godfall Requiem was born from a lot of those thoughts as I was like editing and proofreading and formatting and submitting those to be published. That's where the spawn idea of the Godfall Requiem came from.
I love it. And I actually am glad to hear you kind of mention to our listeners that it was a shorter book, because a lot of people misconstrue, including myself. I was like, I can't publish this. It doesn't have enough poems in it. And so I felt like I either needed to wait until I put more poems in it, or needed to make myself write enough poems because I wanted to get the poems out there. So it makes more sense that it flows natural. A writer knows when they're done. So yeah, you knew what that book needed, and that's fabulous.
Yeah, so like I and I make this joke all the time. I don't have bad writer habits, right? Because I'm not a traditional writer. It's not. I didn't come from that kind of structured realm. I've kind of just took the approach the same way I took the approach to writing. Music was whenever I felt like writing, I did, and whatever I felt like writing, I did. And so with that, I knew when a poem needed to stop. I knew when it needed to be longer. I knew when it was all done. And I didn't have any, like, it's such a weird thing, but I really didn't care what anybody thought about how it would be done. I wasn't considering, what does this mean for a reader? I didn't consider, is this something that other authors do? Like, I didn't have that in my head at all. I just said, I want to do this thing, and like a petulant child, I just did the thing. Um, so that's just kind of how that happened.
I love that. And I mean, that truly defines, really, to me, what creative writing is. And I feel like a lot more of the world would be able to write more freely if they would hear those things right there, right? A poem doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to have analogies. It doesn't have to be 5 lines. It doesn't have to be 20 lines. A poem, a song, a book is whatever it is. It's whatever you make it. And I feel like that is a lot of what holds people back, is they start trying to remember back in school about this is this many stanzas and this has to rhyme and this has to say this. And in my opinion, it truly doesn't. I made up the word thriver
Mhm.
in a poem. who's to say it's not a word?
Right, and that's the thing, like the freedom of expression and all these things. It's I didn't write poetry, right? So I just wrote stuff that was in my head that really looks like poetry. That's how I describe the paradox stuff. Like, and I know me and you have been on panels and we've done spoken word and stuff like that. So there are more my newer poetry, which is unpublished. Those are more poetic in a sense, right? They have a little more depth of meaning. There's a little more emotion. There's a little more coherence. There's you can sense the theme of what these are. That's not the Paradox trilogy. Like none of them. They have their own vibe, but one of the things that once I was done with it, I realized was I didn't feel anything writing them. And I know for a bunch of poets say like, what does that even mean? It's like, yeah, I don't pour my actual emotion or expression or experience into them. I just wrote because I could, and it was a product of what came out just because I did this on a whim, just because I wanted to be creative. I wanted an outlet, and I allowed my brain to just work the way it does, and that's what came out of it. And so there is no rhyme or reason to it. A lot of it doesn't rhyme. A lot of it won't make sense to people unless they read all of them. Because after I realized what I did, I understood what happened. And the little, the little spoiler for it is they all are geared towards the reader. You're gonna have to come through, read them, and apply your own meaning and apply your own logic to what you think I did there. Um, and that to me is the beauty of the art. Like a painter would paint an entire painting, and it's hung up in a museum, and the painter is not sitting there and telling you what you're supposed to be observing, how you're supposed to feel about their painting, especially if it's something abstract, right? No one's really describing that to you. And I kind of took that approach. It is probably the most abstract form of poetry that has ever existed.
I absolutely love that and can't wait. I'm so excited. So, what about your latest novel? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, Godfall Requiem. This one, much like the paradoxes, I was on a phone call with my friend E, and we were like comparing stuff that we were working on. I was telling him about the paradox stuff. He was telling me about some short stories and another mental health book he had focused on. And in the middle of the conversation, like a lightning bolt just hit my brain and was like, what if this, right? And that's how the idea for this book came out. And I'll explain what it is. I'm just giving you guys like the story behind how it happened. And so, in the process of that conversation and like saying, hey, look, I want this to go here. And what if this happened, X, Y, and Z? And this is probably how I want it to end. He was like, you should write it. And I was like, I think I am. And so, and now this one is different because I did sit for 18 straight days. This was all consecutive. Um, 18 days it took me to write The Godfall Requiem, and it poured out like the most coherent fever dream I've ever had. Um, it was just something like that needed to get out there. I feel like all the work that I've been doing in my mind, that's how it's being produced. I'm not really sitting around and thinking how I should world build, how I should create the characters. I'm letting my creative muscles just stretch, and where it needs to go, it will find its way. And who the books are for, they will be for. The Godfall, though, it's uh, it's a genre-defying novel where gods don't just fall; they are rewritten. It begins in a modern world when a man encounters this book that shouldn't exist. Little spoiler: it's called the Nothing Paradox, which is what makes it a metafiction. Um, and as he reads, pieces of it, reality begins to shift, and there are ancient mythological forces that start revealing themselves. And I just want to like give that part because I can't give too much away. I don't want to spoil things for people. but it does follow all the ancient deities that we know from like being in history. Um, so there's Greek gods, Norse, Egyptians, ancient Sumeria, and beneath that whole little cosmic circle, the deeper question about it all is about authorship, identity, and who actually controls the story. Um, so the characters slowly realize that not only they are part of the narrative, but once that happens, the real battle isn't between the gods and them and creation. It's really about who's actually writing it.
That is very powerful. I love that. I definitely want to read that. So, if you all are listening and you've not went and found the copy yet, I'm going to make it easy for you because I'm going to add the links to the website, but you can also find them on his profiles, which I'm also, if he's cool with that, going to put those links on the website as well. Easy access.
Yeah, you can find me across almost every social media platform at the same in the same name at this point. It's Riz guided for most platforms. I did just change the name to TikTok to reflect my author name. And yeah, just feel free to link all those things.
Now, you did mention doing panels. Do you have a set time that you do panels or, host
No,
on?
I exist autonomously that way. I go where I need to be. One of the things, and I mentioned God before. I allow I allow God to move me where I'm needed most. Sometimes it's just to sit and do nothing. Sometimes it's to crack a few jokes in people's comments, and then sometimes it's to get into a really deep conversation that might just you know help someone save their own lives.
That is very deep and impactful. I absolutely love that. So tell us a little bit more about the person himself.
What person?
You.
Me? I'm just a regular guy. Just a regular guy who enjoys humanity. I think the world is a better place when we actively try to make it so. And so I do as much as I humanly possibly can, not only to raise my kids that way, but to make the connections that I do and encourage people that I come across to do the same. I'm just a regular guy who likes all the simple things like food and music and friendships and enjoying life for what it provides you. There's so much experience out there, and there's so many different things that you can try to immerse yourself in. And I'll bring it back to the book conversation a little bit by saying people often ask me, what genre do you write in? I don't have one. The Godfall itself doesn't fit comfortably into one genre. Maybe some of my future works will, and I do have like the next 5 years planned of what I want to write. Um, but me as an author, I'm not going to fit inside a box, and I don't think life works that way. I think when we do things that are free formed and in 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 the spirit of absolute freedom, it just opens you to so many different experiences and encounters. I had a conversation with somebody, and I think we all have that point where we're like, I can't stand my voice when you hear it recorded. And sorry for your listeners, then you probably don't like it either. And that's fine. But there are some people that approach me and it's like, you should try voice acting. I love the sound of your voice. Have you ever thought about it? And I'm like, no. They're like, would you do it? I'm like, absolutely. Why not? Like, I want to try all things. That's why we're here.
I love that motivation and drive and initiative in you, and hopefully, it is inspiring our listeners to do the same. Keep your minds open. You don't have to do just one thing in life, and even if you do something, it doesn't have to be something that you profit off of, or money
Right?
or followers
No.
doesn't determine how amazing your work is. Like, I don't know how many followers you have, but I do know that you are amazing and incredible. I am honored to have met you. So
No, likewise. And it's been an absolute honor of a lifetime to meet everybody that I do, and I think that's kind of how I look at it. I really do truly believe in the intrinsic value of humanity, and everyone that I've come across, I'm in the complete understanding that they are a one of one. They are not a repeatable person. While we may have similarities and things that we go through alike, the fact that we are unique and individual is an absolute wonderful thing. So I do think it's a joy of a lifetime to know anybody that I've known, because the opportunity to not know them was always there, right? Um, and I think that's really cool that I do get to meet so many different people and personalities and immerse myself. And especially with social media, like, it can have its downsides, right? But I think the positive takeaway for me is I'm meeting people I would have never, shared a park bench with. And now I get to pull up into your house pretty much because we're streaming from home a lot of times, right? So I essentially get to sit in your house with you and hang out and get to know you as a person and listen to the poetry that you have and so many of others have shared, and the things that you guys are excited about, even doing this podcast now, right? Even doing the interview, like, I get to share that moment with you, and that is something that a memory that can't be taken from either of us.
I love that outlook on it. Absolutely. A lot of people say you're not in the real world. You live in TikTok or you live in Facebook, or and I should get out more, but like the connections that I've met, I couldn't trade them for anything. I hope that,
Yeah.
30 years from now we're still talking. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, I mean, getting out and touching grass is important. Absolutely. I'm fortunate because I live in New York City, so I get to encounter a multitude of personalities on a day-to-day basis. We are a very densely populated city. But in 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 the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter if you're doing something one way or another. There's always going to be a detractor. There's always going to be someone who has an opinion and say you're doing it wrong. Well, you know what? Then let me do some of it wrong, because that's how I'm going to learn. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to not get it right. I am not perfect, and I don't think anybody else would imagine themselves that they were as well. We all are flawed in our own different quirky little ways, but I think that's something that makes us kind of fun and interesting too. So yeah, if people have opinions on what you do and how you do it, that's great. But I look for the positive opinions. I look for the encouraging opinions, because you're always going to have detractors. I've had people tell me that my poetry is complete trash, and I don't know why you wrote that thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. It's just not for you, and that's cool too. And I'm not upset at that kind of feedback. Like, so I was having a conversation with a bunch of authors, and they were like, well, what would you do if you started to get like negative feedback on your books, and what would you do with the negative comments or a 1 star rating? And I'm like, that's fine, because that's how they've received it. That's how they understood it. And so I couldn't hope to want to manipulate how someone else experiences it. And that's kind of the point. I want people to feel the way they feel about it completely on their own, uncoerced. That is the purest form of what this art should be. So even a negative thing to me is a positive, because at least you engage it. It still made you feel something.
absolutely. Um, so tell us a little bit more about would you mind sharing just a sneak peek into the book with us?
Oh, I would love that. I will flip to, I think, which selfishly is one of my favorite parts of the book. Um, so as you know, I told you that my character, because of the Nothing Paradox, JD, is inside this book. And midway through the book, I thought to myself, it would be really cool, since he's not the main narrator. It'd be really cool if he like stole an entire chapter from the narrator and then kind of poked fun at him for doing it, in true villain fashion. And so it's one of the parts in there. It's titled Mine, and it starts off like this. You've probably been reading this. listening to my bestie this whole time, whining about how hard this has all been for him. Like, seriously, how bad could it be that one of the first gods to ever exist wants to choose you to help him reshape the multiverse? Let me guess, you, like the rest, made up your mind about me. Fine, fair enough. But did you or my bestie think about how I feel once? Yeah, didn't think so. Anyway, he can see how corrupt it's all become under the rule of these watered down, emotionally stunted, amoral gluttons of self grandeur. They care less about humanity than he does, and I want to watch them all crumble under his eyes so we can make it all better. Would that be so bad? How's that?
I want more. And I know the listeners do too. So pick up a copy while you can. Oh my goodness.
It's so much fun writing for him because it is the darkest version that I could create of myself. Um, and I want to like imagine that I wrote it and I was really serious and my face was a little scowled and I was trying to be villainous, but I wasn't. I was laughing the entire time typing it like this is freaking hilarious. I was dying laughing writing this. Because it's just at the point of where he starts saying these things, you'll see how much sense it makes of why he said it. And that's how like it's his first like true chance to express himself away from all of the other characters, away from the main character and his cohorts. It was his own piece where he got to say, "Hey, look, I get how you're looking at this, but again, did you think about how I feel about things once?" Didn't think so because the book didn't give you the opportunity to get to that point. But then once you're there, you kind of have to stop and think like, damn, he's kind of right. Like he's a jerk, but he has a point. Um, and so yes, I had a friend of mine. A friend of mine was one of the first people to purchase the book. Her name is Janelle. Amazing book friend. And she was saying that she's like, I hate him. She's like, I hate JD. He's annoying. Every time he talks, I want him to shut up. His stupid little laughs, I can't stand him. And I'm like, good. That's exactly what you're supposed to feel about him. He's a jerk.
Oh, love that. So what as a published author, what did you find as some of the obstacles in getting published and getting your stuff out there?
So I think for that part, I underestimated the amount of work it takes to promote this stuff. I think I underestimated the time, effort, and energy that goes into it, and there's so much that does go into it, especially when you're self-publishing. Sorry, my little dog in the background. Just hang on yeah, just hang on one sec.
You can bring the dog on the show. We don't mind.
Hey, sorry, I'm back.
That's okay. You can bring the dog on the show. We don't mind.
No, it's all good. So yeah, so one of the obstacles I would say is I underestimated how much promo work goes into it. Um, it is a lot, and for you to get your stuff out there, you have to be really active, especially as an indie author, because when you're working with a publisher, especially one of the major publishers, you kind of have a machine behind you. They give you all the tools to succeed. When you're an indie author, everything stems from you. It's how much time you're willing to put in. It's how much diligence and consistency you're willing to put in. I am terrible at making content, which I need to get better at. Um, and so that part, I think, for me, has still been a little bit of a hurdle. but I would say that that part of it needs to be understood. If you're going to be an indie publisher, you're going to have to bust your ass. You're going to have to work harder than you thought you were going to work initially, and have those things made available. One thing I would recommend is getting in those book communities of other indie authors and people who have done it before, because they know a lot of the pitfalls. And that's for any of you guys that want to reach out to me and like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Would you mind giving me some insight? Absolutely, because people need people, right? No one gets anywhere alone, and I think being helpful that way, like others have been to me, paying it forward would be great. So yeah, I would say that part of it has been episodic.
I agree. When I first spoke to a publisher and they said, you pay so much up front and then we reimburse you as you get it. And I was like, man, that's a lot of money. But when I realized how much time I'm having to put into that advertisement myself and not getting back, like, it's not really that much money.
Right. It does become like a daunting task unless you get picked up, from a major publisher with, a manuscript that they believe in. Um, because those things do happen, and that's how people become, big time bestsellers and all that stuff. Um, I'll get the courage, I guess, soon for the next couple of works that I have to start sending those manuscripts out to major publishers, and I'm pretty sure they'll either love it or hate it. But either way, I'm going to do it just to see how immersive that world is. Just because I just like to try things. I'm just that way. Um, and so we'll see how that part of it goes. But being an indie author has been really fun. I met a lot of incredible people, really supportive communities. If you guys are on TikTok, Book Talk is amazing. Find you some book besties and really rock out, because there are some warm, welcoming people. You have people who spotlight authors, they spotlight voice actors and artists and indie publishers. Like, you have no idea. There's such an immersive community of people who do all sorts of things. There's this one girl who just makes mini books and stickers and stuff like that, and sends it to the people who order them so that they can add them to their book boxes that they're signing and shipping out. So you have an incredible amount of resources out there, to go along with your indie writing journey.
I love that. That really does bring a whole new light. Like, if we had done the other outright, which, like you said, want to try it later. But the journey for the self publishing, it has been a lot of work, but it's a lot of experience, a lot of learning, a lot of fun, a lot of creativity, and just getting out there and seeing so much diversity in the world.
No, absolutely, and that's the thing. Just stay diligent, stay consistent. If it's something you want to do, give it your best shot. Like, really go at it. Because unless you believe in yourself the way you should, nobody else will. So you kind of gotta push it like it's something that you absolutely love. And I think for me, that's what makes it easy to talk about all these things, because I am so proud of the work that I've done. I love what I've put out. I love what I'm planning. I love the creativity of it. I love the art behind it. I love seeing readers' reactions. I got the benefit to have somebody sitting on a live stream, and she was reading the book on camera, and I could see, like, at certain parts she would scowl and an eyebrow would raise, and like, that to me is super rewarding, because like, you get to see in real time people reacting to something that you wrote, and like, you are essentially, as selfishly, I'm writing it for myself as well, because I enjoy the stories and the poetry that I write, but I do love to see people's reaction to it. That is so rewarding.
I love that. And yeah, I don't think I've watched anybody read my poetry since I've published, but yeah. That does sound very rewarding, and that sounds very interesting, and definitely a lifetime experience that you can keep in your pocket.
Yeah, Absolutely.
So, what's on your bucket list? Just a crazy, curious question.
Oh, bucket list. I think if I had to choose one thing that's on my bucket list, it's still being well and healthy enough and able enough, and hopefully my young daughter is fortunate enough to find someone who loves her enough to marry her, and they're worth her amazing spirit. But on my bucket list is still being around to be able to walk her down the aisle. I think that would turn me into a puddle of emotional mess. But I almost, and that's years and years, I'm sure, in the future. But that's something that I have thought about, and like I can't wait to see that. I hope I get the opportunity.
That is absolutely beautiful. That is definitely not something I've ever heard before. I love that. It's amazing.
I do value things that are irreplaceable, that are, you know, that you can't put a price on. You know, saying something like skydiving, which sounds fun, and I think that would be on the list too. Visiting spiritually and energetic sites across the world would probably be another one. But those are all things that I can put a dollar amount on. Um, I couldn't put a dollar amount on the feeling that I would get from that.
Absolutely not. How many kids do you have?
I have to,
Two. That's awesome.
yeah, I have a son and daughter. Yeah. So yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to read us from that book or any of your books or
I don't want to give them too many spoilers because I want people to immerse themselves in the story. I
absolutely.
will say that I am in the works of creating a cast for the audiobook, um, in which I will be voicing JD's character because I don't feel like anybody else is going to get his cadence and his style and the, the the little intricacies of the way he speaks because they can't be me and I'm him. Um, so I am building a cast of voice actors and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to getting to work on that. So that way, not only can people read this stuff, but they can hear an immersive experience with a cast of people who are going to enjoy acting out all these amazing parts. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of back and forth between the characters and other gods. I'm so excited to see not only people read this, but for them to like immerse themselves and hear it. I think that would create a whole new experience for people.
Ooh, I can't wait. That's going to be a lot of work, but it'll definitely be a fun journey along the way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you have more questions for me, fire away. I'm here for it.
What's the most listened to song on your playlist?
Oh, sheesh. I think at this point, the most listened to song on my playlist is "Holy Forever." It's a worship song. It's a gospel song. Um, I play that a lot. I have immersed myself in a lot of worship music. And so I have that on in the background, um, almost at one point or another throughout the day. I'll throw that on with a couple other my favorites, but I think that one has made it onto like the top of the list so far.
Gonna have to listen to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a couple of versions. I think there's I forget the gentleman's name, but the one that I was put onto first was I think her name is CC Williams. So her rendition of it is really nice. But yeah, it's a really good song. I think putting yourself at ease and keeping yourself connected to whatever it is you believe is important. And so that's one of the things that it needs to be a part of my day at some point.
Absolutely. I definitely have songs like that as well. So you and I know a lot of people are kind of touchy about the subject of religion, but you talked about, your faith and how God leads you, and I absolutely love that. Um, is that something that you've always had, or?
Oh no, so and that's probably a longer conversation to have, but I'll just say that growing up, my parents were of opposite religions, and so they didn't really, force us to believe one thing or another. Losing a parent really early kind of makes you cynical and not so ready to believe in things. And so for the longest time, I didn't. There were certain instances in my life where the the evidence became inarguable for me. There was just so many different circumstances, and as I got through, more and more of them, and I started, you know, really looking these things up. So I had spent time researching pretty much every religion and belief system that you could come up with. If it exists, I've read about it. Um, if someone believes it somewhere, I've looked into it, and that was like my long quest on finding where I needed to go before understanding what I understand, and I won't leave that in here just so that it doesn't turn anybody off. But yeah.
I get that. Um, hmm. Are you reading anything right now?
Yeah, so there's a collection of indie authors that I've been fortunate to meet, and they do like little giveaways in their lives and stuff like that. And so I got gifted from a few giveaways that I won. Um, there's a R.W. McNabb. He has a book called The Pendragon Prodigy, and another author named C.P. Harrow who has The Devil Drinks Sweet Tea. And I am on my way to getting another one. I forget her author name, but it's called The Final Dip, and it's a very unhinged story. But I'm looking forward to reading that too. Amongst others, I kind of amassed like a wish list, so I have like 20 or 30 on my list right now that I'm getting to. But those are the two that just got sent to me, so I'm currently diving in between both of those.
Awesome. Who is your favorite author of all time?
You're gonna make me say it, aren't you? It's me. It's me. I'm my favorite.
I love that. I love that confidence and knowing that you believe in what you're writing and what you're putting down on paper.
I I say that I'm my favorite author because The Godful Requiem was a story that really couldn't exist unless I wrote it. I've never seen anything like it. While there are things that have been brought up in other books, as far as like the gods and all that, they have been mentioned in other places, of course. I think if I was to look for a book that was this, I guarantee it wouldn't exist. And so the fact that it does, this is a story that I got to read, right? So the editing process is no joke. If any of you out there have ever edited your own work, it is a painstaking experience, and you are looking at every single line with a fine tooth comb. And so I have read this over 100 times. I absolutely love it. It's just amazing. And so yeah, I have to say it's me because it's a story that I would love to have read. And if anybody else in the world had written a book like this, then that person would be my favorite author because this is a story that I absolutely thought was amazing.
I love that. That is definitely a unique response and a very great outlook on it. No, you're going to sell so many books. I cannot wait to read this book.
Look, I hope so. And like, I don't really care about the profit so much Um, I do have this stuff out there because I enjoy it and I had a blast doing it. But again, I really do hope that it allows people to escape into a little bit of a place where they have never really visited before, whether it be the poetry, whether it be the Godfall, whether it be, my self help book, whatever work that I end up putting out in the future. I love the idea that I am creating artifacts in the world that may just help someone, that may just break someone out of the probably worst day that they've ever experienced. And they stumble across this book, and maybe someone who didn't like the book threw it down on like a stoop or something, and they picked it up and they read it and it changed their whole day. Like that little thing right there would be wonderful, and I hope that's a thing, and I hope I manifested that into the world, where somebody comes across a discarded copy of the Godfall Requiem and they're like, I love this, this made me feel better.
I'm sure it will definitely be inspiring and make many people feel better. Absolutely. So,
Yeah,
what are some of the things that shaped who you are today?
everything,
Ooh,
all
I
of it,
love that.
all of it. I'm still i'm still now being shaped by the things that I've yet to experience. um Life is the best teacher in the world, and if you allow yourself to really, really become a student of everything that it has to offer, then you don't limit yourself from experiencing so much more, not only about the world, but finding out things about yourself because of it. We are constantly influenced by the things, people, and places around us. And so I like to keep myself open to learning new aspects, not only of other things, but of myself. So I'm constantly growing, and life will continue to shape me. Um, yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I have said a lot of it before, but one of the things that I would love to remind people, you really just get one shot at this thing called life, and if at all possible, you use your time, energy, and effort to make someone else seem valued and seen and heard and appreciated and not so invisible. That could be a very, very powerful thing for that person, and you don't know how many other people can be affected by that person being changed by your kindness. Kindness is free and it is super easy. Um, I just want to remind everyone not only to be kind in the world outside of them, but also treat yourself like somebody you love. Um, you are enough and you deserve good things.
Very powerful words. Thank you so much for sharing those. Hear those and play those back, everyone, including myself. So,
Yes, yes. Put it in your headphones. Put that part on repeat. Clip it. Post it. Send it out to the masses. Um, yeah, you are enough and you deserve good things.
well, if you have not already, by the time that we are this far into this podcast, went and checked all his social media out and bought his book, we're going to close out with you better hurry up and get to it because you are missing out. Um, I want to thank you so much for this interview today. It has been definitely an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I look forward to seeing you prosper and get famous. And I can be like, I knew him.
Well, look, I appreciate it. One of the most valuable commodities is time. So that any of the time that I get to spend with anybody, including your listeners, I truly value and understand what it means because we don't get it back. So I truly, truly do appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for listening.
Have a great night, everyone, and we will see you on the next podcast.